Welcome back to A People's Guide to Publishing. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing and Distribution. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 25 years.
I'm Elly. I'm the editorial and marketing director here at Microcosm. We are an independent mid-list publisher based in Portland, Oregon, and Cleveland, Ohio. We have over 700 books, over 25 employees, and we make about 40 new books every year. And we distribute thousands of titles from other publishers.
We started this podcast so that we can share what we've learned with newer publishers so that you can learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe you just want to understand the publishing industry.
This week, we are going to answer a reader question.
Thanks, reader.
Which is a little bit complicated, so I'm going to read it. I noticed some years ago that Elly merged into Microcosm Publishing. I understand that being an imprint can reduce creative freedom, but I believe communication and distribution of an independent publisher and the knowledge it brings can really help your books. I lack industry knowledge and contacts in the industry. How and where can I become an imprint of a like-minded independent press?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
The answer is nepotism.
Largely it is.
Kind of. No, I'm not kidding at all. Sorry, readers.
It's not just nepotism, so, you'd start with making a list of publishers that are like yours, that are larger than you, like publishers that are large enough to have a staff, and, because you'd be surprised how many publishers seem larger than you, but are in fact not. So I'd start with looking at the about pages and seeing who have at least 4 people on staff, and they don't just refer to them as their board or something, because that is often just a creative way not to pay people.
Or freelancers.
Right, yes. But people on their website listed as performing job duties, and then looking at it that way. And sometimes a really well put together New York machine can do 3 people can produce that amount of work and be significantly effective and large, but and that's part of it too. And then I would organically meet these people.
Oh, you also want to make sure they have distribution.
Well, if they're that moneyed,
they could be a vanity press.
Yeah, and that's the other reason you want to make sure that these are actually jobs, because the jobs is sort of my workaround to making sure that they were actually reaching readers and had a way to...
You want to make sure they can actually reach more readers than you can.
Yes, precisely the point. And so you do that, and then, you think about, you would have to conceptually work with these people, so you probably need to get along with them. I can't really speak to that angle, but
we get along. What?
And but you want to make sure there's enough chemistry that you can make that joke to them. And so go and meeting them at trade shows, even just hi, I'm so and so. I really appreciate what you do. This is what I do. It's kind of similar, and then slowly snowballing that conversation, building up, and not, you don't want to show up and then be hi, I'm looking for somebody to buy my press. You want to be more you, me, same, I'm aspiring and getting there. I really respect what you do and would love to be in touch,
I mean, you're essentially you're not just looking to sell your press in this case, you're looking to become part, keep your press but become part of theirs, which is a different kind of relationship where you're essentially going to get married to this press.
Hubba.
I know. It is. It's a contract and an ongoing relationship, so there has to be a lot of trust and
hopefully
mutual understanding there.
And so when I was writing the People's Guide to Publishing the book, one of the things was that I was looking for these kind of situations that were long-lasting, and one of the examples that kept being thrown out at me was Triumph Books, which was founded by one guy, was sold to Random House almost immediately, Random House shed it after a few years, and then it was bought by Chicago Review Press, and the founder was still there after more than 10 years.
Wow.
And then by the time the book came out, that was no longer true.
Oh no.
So I had some last minute edits where, because that was literally the only example I can find, because normally what happens is a independent press is sold to a larger independent press or a less than independent press, and the founder makes some great statements about like, now we have money to solve all of our problems, and then within usually 1 to 2 years they are gone, as is the entire staff. That's the mean average, and it is mean.
I feel lucky that 100% of my staff is still on board at Microcosm, though I will say we have we still have the Elly Blue Publishing imprint, but
which would be pretty awkward without you.
But new books are coming out just as Microcosm. Like we've kind of retired that imprint for newer books.
I'm really looking forward to our next inappropriate title being published as Elly Blue Publishing.
Is that where we're going to start that as like the garbage imprint?
Monster Trucks of the Interstate from Elly Blue Publishing.
I would be honored.
British Petroleum presents.
As long as all the funny titles, the joke titles, yeah. We can talk. We can talk off camera.
My book of just photographs of interstates called Hellscapes.
Yes.
That would be a perfect Elly Blue Publishing title.
It really would. Thanks for the pitch. Gosh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Don't steal that, viewers. That is private property.
No one can do it the way we can.
It wouldn't be as beautiful.
I feel like, though, if other people are out there kind of expanding the market for photos of interstate books, sure. Anyway.
But so you're I'm just gonna say it again because it might have gotten lost in all the things we just added. Almost none of these situations work out long term. In almost every case, you are selling your press and you are walking away.
Or like you have a contract where you have a job for a year.
Whether you admit that or not,
right.
That is very much what is likely to happen. So the way to solve that problem, because it's hard to find somebody that like has interest, money, and you get along with them. That's like sort of three.
And
that
it's
might
also
be a real testament to you.
I mean, I feel like one of the biggest challenges I had joining Microcosm was adapting my own like work for myself style where every decision was made by me to suddenly being part of a team where like, every decision was not made by me, and often decisions were made based on like different metrics than I would use. So, there's a lot of reasons for it to not work out, besides just like some bigger company is taking a press and screwing you over, Like, it's hard to go from being top in command to being not only second in command, but pretty junior and not understanding the industry.
Right. And so that is great feedback. And, and I think that's exactly why these situations don't typically last.
Yeah.
So how did you cope with that?
Well, we had some conflict at the beginning.
Did we? I don't remember.
That's probably good. It wasn't like epic conflict, but it was definitely, there was a lot of like, stepping on toes.
Oh.
Namely done by me.
Oh.
Usually unwittingly. I think I took an interview with media to representing Microcosm, and I just, like, in my first month, and I didn't even think twice about it. It was somebody that wanted to talk about bicycle books, not my company in specific, and I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll talk to the media, and Joe was like, usually I do that. When it's like representing the whole company.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't so much like conflict as it was like, oh, where are the boundaries? Who does what?
Right. Like, where is the scope of my job? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I can remember a half dozen other incidents at least, and probably more I didn't know of, where I like totally overstepped because we hadn't really worked out who was responsible for what.
Okay.
But good communication got us through.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like we both, if I can speak for you, which I can, we both trust each other and like can have a conversation when there is conflict to resolve it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't have that if you don't have a prior relationship with a press. Like if you're just coming in as an employee, you are almost like the coffee go-getter, but then you have this deep emotional investment in this thing that you've built at the same time,
I had also been put in charge of, like, the whole marketing department for Microcosm. Like, I wasn't just, like, it didn't make sense to just have me come in and be paid to just manage my small number of rather underperforming books. Like, I was suddenly representing, and I was, like, learning, like, what does a marketing person do at a publishing company? How do I interact with the distributor? How do I manage employees? None of these things I had experience in. And then I was also having to, like, you know, run a Kickstarter project suddenly for a book about punk, which is not a topic I knew anything about. And it was a real stretch. It was a good stretch, but I had a lot to adjust to.
Right, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so what advice would you give?
I would say, you know, Joe's advice is really good, to not do it if you're attached to staying with your company. Like, there's other things you could do to grow your company. Like, maybe, I don't know, you buy another press or something. No, I can't advise that. That's not what I did. Yeah, I don't know. What is my advice? I would say, like, learn as much as you can. Make sure that it's a really solid relationship, and make sure that you're, like, okay with various outcomes.
That's good. Yeah. And then
and make sure your contract is awesome.
And if you plan well, because a lot of times people are really looking at it as, like, if my company had a cash infusion, it would be fine.
It's not.
But the real problem is that, like, how they're approaching things is the actual problem. And so when they're forced to adhere to a budget, that's kind of when they blow up, and that's ultimately what undoes it. Yeah. And so most of those problems you can solve before you get into this sort of hierarchical relationship, you know. And so I guess it's like my same advice when we had all the publishers coming to us asking how to sell. It's like, get your ducks in a row, and then that will solve your problems, and then you will find out that was what was causing you all the stress.
Like, yes, don't do it for the money, honestly, like, don't do anything for the money, unless it's, like, to balance your books. But do it for, like, the camaraderie, and because you can do more as part of a team, and more with a bigger list. Like, I think that's the real reason to do it.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.